Hello, my name is AJ Goldsby. I'm a life master from Pensacola, Florida, and I'm coming to you today because I wanted to do another video on the game of the century. This is one of the most famous chess games of all time, and it's a very famous game, and I just am doing a new web page on this game. It's basically a reappraisal, so I want to go ahead and just jump right into the game. The game starts out knight f3, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, d4, castles, bishop f4, d5, queen b3, d takes c4. I like that move. c6 is the playing pawn to queen bishop 3 or c6 is the move recommended by the Power Book, the latest version that I have, 2013 Power Book. But d takes c4 is a very active move, and I like that move also too because it's very sharp. D takes c4, queen takes c4, c6. Again, that move is 100% forced. Some authors wrote that black could play other moves there, or should do other things like knight e8, but that's ridiculous. c6 is the best square. It does take away. I can understand some authors not wanting to take away the best square from black's knight, but this is actually a good square for this pawn. Keeps this knight off of this square, helps restrict pieces from landing on those squares, and it does kind of bind up black's queen side, but black has many simple answers to that, as Fischer proves to this game. e4, knight bd7. Again, now this is a nice move. I think b5 was slightly more active there. That's a move recommended by many of the engines. But knight bd7 is a perfectly fine move. One of the ideas is the knight gets to redeploy to b6, hitting the queen on c4. So that's a perfectly playable move. Rook d1, this is a good move because it places the black position under a lot of pressure. Knight b6, again, that's a very good move. Redeploying the knight, hitting the white queen. Queen c5, exclam. The reason I say give that move an exclam is because when this game was originally played, there were several analysts and authors like Averbach of the Soviet Union and several others that greatly criticized this move and said that that was the wrong square for the white queen. And actually today the engines show that's the correct square for the queen, because if you place the queen, say if the queen in this position went back to b3, then black simply has bishop to e6, hitting the white queen again. So queen c5, exclam. Bishop g4, I like that move because it's very sharp. It greatly turns up the pressure in this game. Obviously, I don't think Fischer would have won this game of the century in such a brilliant manner had he not played this move. The engines in this particular position, engines like move like a5 or bishop e6 or other moves. There's all kinds of moves there that black can play. But I like bishop g4. That's a very thematic move. The idea is to undermine the center. Now, if white had simply played the simple bishop e2 move, he would have avoided a lot of the trouble he got into this game and probably would have had a fairly large advantage, and that's what the computers show. But here's where white played bishop g5. Technically, this move is an error. Of course, we can thank Byrne for playing this, because if he had not played this move, then we wouldn't have had the game of the century. Fischer's next move is just absolutely astounding. He plays knight a4. Double exclam. I think it's a triple exclam. That's just my own personal opinion. It's just one of those extra special moves. It's like you see in the game Kasparov Topalov or some of those. I mean, it's just a really unbelievable move. At first, it looks like it even has, maybe you can give it one extra exclam. The third exclam is for the surprise value, because most people, when they first see it, it looks like a blunder. I've taught this game many times over the years, and most of the students, when they first look at this game, they automatically assume it was a blunder. But anyway, knight a4, queen a3. Again, that's best or forced, or even box. Again, when this game was first played, other people suggested other moves for white, but that's absolutely the best move. Knight takes c3, b takes c3, knight takes c4. And again, I'm just running through this game. I'm just going to highlight a few points. I'm not going to do a detailed analysis of this game. I've analyzed this game online. I already have several web pages online on this game, and I'm just completing a new web page where I'll analyze this game again, basically looking at it only through the eyes of the latest chess engines like Fritz 13 and Houdini 3 and Ribka 4 and those type of engines. So I'm just completing that web page, and that's the main reason that I'm doing this video. Knight takes e4, obviously. Very brilliant move. Fischer's sacrificing, again, he's sacrificing more material, again, to rip open the center. Bishop takes e7. Queen b6, absolutely exclam, sharpest move. Queen d5 there, in this position, actually. Black can also play queen d5. That's another move that the engine's fine. But that leads to a nice in-game advantage for black and some lines, but I think queen b6 is the much sharper move, and I like that the best. Bishop c4. And this is actually kind of comical here. Byrne was one of the highest, he was easily in the top 5 in the U.S. when this game was played. He was even back then probably even much more highly rated than his brother. But actually, I don't think they even had ratings back in the mid-50s, or if they did, I'm not sure, what the USCF ratings were. FIDE ratings didn't come along until I think the either very late 50s or early 1960s. So anyway, but back then, Byrne was easily, according to the Chess Metrics website, he was in the top 5 players in the country, even more highly rated than his elder brother, Robert Byrne, at least at that time. Well, anyway, Queen B6. And here Byrne probably is, he's, trying to complete his development, and, Fischer's already dreaming of mating attacks. Bishop C4, knight takes C3, bishop C5. And now, now actually, if you weren't thinking here, you would have thought, well, that black was in trouble here. I mean, it would be easy. I've had students that were near expert strength look at this position and thought that, that black was lost. I had one student who thought for a while, he literally had a rating of over 2,000. He was only in town for a few months. He was a young Navy pilot. This was a number of years ago, and he studied the position for a good 15-20 minutes, and I asked him what he would do here as black, and he said, I would tender my resignation. So this is an easy position to misjudge. But anyway, Fischer plays brilliantly. We have RFE8 check. I give that move a double exclam, and there's several reasons why I want to do that. Number one, on some computers, and I've tested this, had several friends test it, knight b5 is what the computer likes to play there, 16 knight b5, but that's not beautiful or brilliant. That's number one. And number two, there's a couple other reasons, but the main one is that I think that the opening should, not the opening, a game position like this should be interpreted as a direct attack on the king. White's left his king in the center, and Morphy showed the way over 100 years ago that in such positions, when your opponent king gets caught in the center, generally you try to flush it out and hit it with all of your pieces. So RFE8 check, double check, not double check, RFE8 check, double exclam. And it's a very pretty move too. And I also think there's another reason I think that move gets a double exclam is because, to me, the chess of Fischer, Kasparov, Rubinstein, those guys, it's really beautiful. And I think that chess isn't about just, dry technique. And I think it should be about something more than that. And that's why I give this move a double exclam. King F1, that's absolutely forced. Bishop E6, of course, very well known. That's the surprise move of the century. It was a chess shot heard around the world. And I'm not going to analyze this game. I'm not going to spend a lot of time analyzing the various alternatives because I have a web page for that. The main thing I want to do here is run through the game as quickly as possible and simply highlight maybe some of the different things that I noticed when I did this reappraisal of this game. Black plays white plays bishop takes b6. That move is pretty much forced. Any other move is pretty much hopeless. I do want to point out just one sideline real quick here is the engine wants to play queen takes c3, queen takes c5, takes, and this has got to be a one position for black because all the pieces are coming off. Black has the 2 bishops. White's going to be 1 pawn, maybe even 2 pawns. At most lines, he's behind in development. I can't see White hanging on to the c pawn for very long in such a position. So this has got to be, and all the engines clearly interpret or show the evaluation that this is a one game for black. So I can understand why there's no way Byrne wanted to trade queens there. Bishop takes b6. He's still got to be thinking about early enough in the game he's trying to win. So, anyway, now check. King g1, knight e2 check. Knight back to e2 check, king f1, knight c3, 23, king g1, and now a takes b6. You can also give that move an exclam. Now the black's hitting the white queen, and the white queen's forced to move. Queen b4, and now rook a4. That's really the move that maybe Byrne missed that, I don't know, or maybe once he got into this he really didn't have any choice, in this combination because a lot of the moves were very forced. So whatever the reason, white is clearly lost at this point. Queen takes b6, knight takes d1, h3, rook takes a2, king h2, knight takes f2, rook e1, rook takes, queen takes, check, bishop f8, knight takes e1, bishop to d5, knight f3, 94, queen b8, b5, exclam, h4, h5, exclam. That's just to stop any nonsense by white trying to maybe run his pawn up to h6 and further tie up the black king. 95, king g7, exclam, unpinning the black bishop. Of course, white is quite lost in this position. And now the game, is just king g1. That was kind of not such a great move. Knight d3 would have prolonged the game here. King g1, bishop c5 check. And now the king should go to h2. That's 100% forced. I'm sure Byrne could see all of this. At this point, I'm pretty sure he knew he was lost, and he maybe even was, at this point, might have been trying to get the game over. But now black tracks down the white king and mates him. I do know that from, it's already been proven a long time ago that black missed like he could have mated one move quicker if he'd have played the more accurate moves. But anyway, the rest of the concluding moves of this game are king f1, knight g3 check, king e1, bishop b4 check, king d1, bishop b3 check, king c1, knight e2 check, king b1, knight c3, king c1, rook c2, mate on the 41st move. That pretty much concludes my video. Thank you for watching my video. If you'd like to make a donation, go to the PayPal website. That's www.paypal.com. You can make a donation under my email, which is LifeMasterAJ@yahoo.com. Thank you for watching my video, and have a great day.